How's that? Can you see okay? Okay, so here we have the wheel head. Now, one way to do this is you put it in the center, make sure it's perfectly centered. You get 3 wedges of little pieces of clay and you push them around to hold it in. So that's one way to do it. I used to do it that way and I decided I didn't like it. So I bought myself one of these things, which is called a Giffen grip. And this is similar to a lathe chuck, if you're familiar with wood turning. So how this works is, take your pot, put it roughly in the center. Comes with these little arms. You find the ones that best fit the size. Put in this little jobber. And you tighten it up. Hope that it'll hold. I could have went a little higher. We'll try it this way. I also have a cut up cardboard box that helps catch some of the trimmings. Try to do this so it's not in the way. Turn on your wheel. Okay. Everything's looking pretty good. I'll start out with this little trimming tool here. Well, this one's getting kind of worn out, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is trimming off the excess clay on the bottom of the pot, cutting a foot ring. I'm just kind of defining, just finishing off the pot. Some people would just basically clean it up to about that point and call it good. It really depends on the mug for me, how much I'm going to trim it, how much excess is there, and how defined you're going to make it. So this one, I'm probably going to cut a deeper foot ring. First I'm going to cut this down a little bit. It's very similar to turning on a wood lathe, except instead of on a horizontal axis, you're on a vertical axis, or axes, I mean. So I usually roughly trim out the outside of the foot first. Lighten up the bottom of the belly just a little bit. There's not much excess there, but don't want to make it too narrow. I want it to have a good base to sit on. Then I'm going to switch over to the smaller ribbon cutting tool. And there's a variety of different trimming tools that you can use. I use quite a variety. Mostly I use these, but I also have some tools such as that. There's a lot of different ways to do this. These are just the techniques that I use. So I'm actually going to speed this up a little bit. And I decide where I want it. I make a circle. I don't know if you can see that, and make the outside part of that. Trim down. And I usually flip over to the rounded edge and start from the middle out. Taking off a little at a time. If you take shallow cuts, you're less likely to catch and pull the pot up off of the wheel. And of course you don't want to go so deep that you cut into the interior of the pot. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'll take my finger and press lightly just to kind of smooth out the bottom and add a little compression to prevent some cracks. This also pushes the rougher grains of the sand in the clay back into it, so it will be smoother. And I'm going to take this tool like this and I'm going to put a little groove at the junction point between the belly of the pot and the foot of the pot. This not only looks good, but it will help catch any glaze that will later run down the pot in the glaze firing process. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see we have a foot here. Pretty basic. Now, you know, you can get as creative on this if you want. Sometimes I'll make cuts out of this. A lot of different things you can do. Just take a moment here to make sure we're still tight. Okay. Another thing I like to do is I have this little handmade tool that I use. Just cleaning it out right now. Alright, so this is basically a gear from, I don't remember what it was from, maybe an old drill or something on the inside of a drill, but it's basically a metal gear. Right, on a bent nail that spins. So it's kind of a little roller roulette. So what I'm going to do is speed this up, and I'm going to make a little pattern on the outside of the pot right here. Okay, not sure if you can see it, but I'll do a close-up later. It gives you a series of grooves all the way around. And I like to use an old lighter with the flint wheel on it. And I'll press in and put a couple more shallow grooves just above what I just did. There. Now we have a nice little pattern. Okay. Loosen it up, and so far this is what we have. You can see the grooves, bottom of the foot, weight's nice. I mean, you could just drink out of it like that, but we're going to put a foot on or a handle on this. Now I already have some handles pulled, so I'll have to do a different video on how I make the handles, but for time's sake I'm not going to include that in this one. So I'm going to take those arms out of the way, open this up. I'm going to turn my wheel off. Now usually, since I have about 4 more mugs to trim, I would just set this aside and then trim all of those first and then I would put handles on all of them. But we're going to go through this one. Move this box of trimmings. Bring my slurry bucket over here, which is just water and clay trimmings, basically. I'm also going to bring this little banding wheel. Okay. And I'll pick a handle. Okay, I think I'm going to go with this handle. Now these are a little wetter than this is at the moment. Get some tools out here. Set that down. I'm just going to kind of look the piece over and kind of think about where a handle might look the best. I think we'll go about right there. So what I normally do is kind of line it up to where I want the top of the pot and mark it. Now there's a lot of techniques, different techniques on how you can do this. This is just how I do it. Some people just stick a chunk of clay on it, turn it down and pull the handle right on the pot, and that works too. I just am not in the habit of doing that. And I will take this little wire scoring tool and score the area on the top. I probably should have trimmed these pots an hour and a half ago. They're starting to get a little dry. I do the same thing right there, except the opposite way. Just rough it up. Then I get myself some wet, where's the slurry clay? There. Basically acts as glue or cement to join it all together. Wipe your finger off. Press it, wiggle and press it into the pot, smoothing underneath it. Usually get my finger a little bit wet to do this. Okay, so the top is roughly connected. I'll be refining that in a second. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. Then I need to decide where I want the bottom. Probably just where it naturally goes, about right there. Maybe a little bit more in, about right there. I'll take that scoring tool and rough up the connection point. Get a little more slurry. Dab it on in there. Wipe your hands. A lot of times I'll put a hand on the inside if possible and push it down. And there you have it. That's the begin. It's almost done now. But I like to do a few more decorative things, so I'm going to trim the very bottom of that handle off, and then I'm going to take a seashell and press it against the bottom of the handle, leaving an impression that mimics these marks. Alright, then I just kind of smooth out the joints like this with a wet finger. Sometimes if you have some excess, you might scrape it off with a wooden knife or something. Get some of that slurry out of there. Smooth it out a little bit. Alright, the handle is done. I'll probably smooth this out a little bit more after it dries. There is the pot. Now the next step is to stamp and sign it. So first I'm going to use my Sea Smoke Pottery stamp, custom made. This is a little bit harder because I don't want to push the bottom of it in. So I think I'm going to use it on the side. Can't see it very well. Okay. I'll sign my name on the bottom of this. That stamping could have been a little bit better, but it'll still be interesting. And I have my other little stamp for my initials that I usually add. E, and I just flip it, M, W. There you go. Sea Smoke Pottery mug, ready to dry and then be fired. Alright, well I hope you found that interesting. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.